I've got fantastic people. They're working on it already. Just wonderful. Just fantastic. It's going to be the greatest wall of all time. They're fantastic. Wonderful people. They're great. We're going to be great. Great, great, great. I wonder when America's going to get tired of that. Maybe they won't. Good to have you with us on this Monday edition of Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Just a couple of notes from over the weekend. I'm going to call Donald Trump from now on, and I'll ask my friend Mike Papantonio in a few moments. What does he think about this? We'll just call him the Maginot Line candidate. I mean, he keeps talking about this wall and how somebody else is going to pay for it. This is kind of what Hitler did. Seriously. Hitler tried to get restitution from other countries because he thought Germany got screwed in World War I. All right, so the Maginot Line. We all know what that is. That's the concrete fortification that the French put in along the French and Switzerland border because they were afraid that Germany or any other army from the east was going to invade. And what these concrete fortifications were going to do were give the French army an opportunity to get their act together while they're under attack. The Maginot Line, these massive fortifications, would slow people down. So this is what Trump is talking about. I've heard him a few times say, well, it's not really the wall, but it's going to be a wall. And, you know, he's the Maginot Line candidate. This is what this guy's going to build. By the way, André Maginot, he was a French minister of war. He was named, the Maginot Line was named after him because he came up with that technique in World War I. One other thing about Trump over the weekend where Jake Tapper on CNN lost his gonads in the middle of the, or maybe he doesn't follow healthcare, but I do. Being the husband of a wife who is a 4-year cancer survivor and still battling away, when Trump says we're not going to let people die in the street. We're not going to let people die in the street. Well, what does that mean? But then he says he's going to repeal Obamacare. And now Rudy Giuliani steps up and says he's been, quote, giving guidance to Donald Trump. Giuliani will jump in front of any parade he possibly can. He's still a dirtbag politician from New York. Here's the bottom line. Trump does not have a health care plan. And on CNN yesterday, they went back and forth, and he keeps going to this one line, we're not going to let people die in the street, but he's going to repeal Obamacare. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean the pre-existing condition is going to be gone? Now, that means a hell of a lot to me because my wife has a pre-existing condition. And that means the insurance industry, which we all know runs health care in this country. It's all what they want to pay for determines on what kind of really care you're going to get. No matter what doctor you're in front of, they all want to get paid. All right? And if they're not going to get paid for drugs or procedure, then your care could be lesser than what it could be. Now, we're not going to let people die in the street. Okay, well, I'm not saying that my wife would end up dying in the street, but the fact of the matter is there are millions of Americans out there who have got a pre-existing condition that would be viewed unsurable and would be left with no insurance, and we would be back to square one. But all Trump tells us is that he's going to repeal Obamacare. We're going to have health care savings accounts, which is a total flop because income inequality and disposable income is a big factor in our economy right now. And so there's no detail. There's no detail. And all these other candidates right now are jockeying, well, gosh, I can't piss off Trump because he might want me to be VP. They got to call him on it. And Jake Tapper, what's your problem? You afraid to follow up with a question? Asking him, well, what does this mean for millions of Americans who have been saved, the safety net, that the insurance company can no longer drop people? Are you going to repeal that too, Mr. Trump? Well, we're not going to let people die in the street. What is that code for what? Are you going to run them over if they do die? This campaign's starting to piss me off a little bit. Now, whether it's Hillary or Sanders, there's no doubt that Obamacare is not going to get repealed, okay? Isn't going to happen. I don't care who owns the Senate. I don't care who owns the House. Ain't going to happen. And that kind of matters to us. That's kind of a kitchen table issue. I won't have to sell the lake home to save my wife's life if it ever comes to that. And, you know, this is where people are. This is where sick people are in this country. But we're not going to let them die in the street. Well, that's good to know. Gosh, Trump, you got my vote. Whew. Good to know that. The Congressional Black Caucus, I think, needs to do a little mop-up here on Bernie Sanders. And I realize a lot of them are for Hillary, but it sure would be nice if Bernie Sanders got some recognition for his decades' work on behalf of civil rights and minorities in this country. A picture has surfaced in recent days that was taken back in the 60s in Chicago that was unearthed by the Chicago Tribune. And, you know, it's the old saying or song, was it? A picture says 1,000 words. I guess I would just like to see, and I know that John Lewis, who made some comments, came back and made a press conference comment about he really didn't mean what he said about Bernie Sanders, about he didn't see him, he wasn't around. He didn't mean to disparage him or degrade him in any way, and I accept that. But you know what? I think that there has to be some recognition of Senator Sanders, of where he was 40-plus years ago on the front line when we were fighting for civil rights in this country. Donnie Wahlberg. Yeah, you know, the actor, the guy that plays the detective cop on Blue Bloods, he's supporting Rubio. Well, I'll tell you what, folks, I'm going to be viewing that show a hell of a lot differently. And it was earth-shaking this morning that former Minnesota Governor Tim Pawlenty, who left the state in a budgetary crisis, is also supporting Rubio. I think Pawlenty's off being a lobbyist somewhere. Guy who cares? I'm throwing it out because they're worthless, and sometimes it's good to do that. PJ Media is also worthless. They wrote some shit about me over the weekend that is false, and maybe I'll sue them unless they correct it. PJ Media, who is that? Let's see, Roger L. Simon, some big writer or whatever. I don't know. It is some right-wing think tank. I'm getting tired of these people. All right, John McAfee is going to be joining us tonight on the news with Ed on RT America at 8 o'clock. He's a cybersecurity legend and developer of the McAfee antivirus. And what it comes down to, folks, in our society is we're going to have to make a decision. Either we are on, and we're going to ask you this question tonight on the tube, either you are with law enforcement or you're with the tech companies. And it all surrounds the San Bernardino shooting where 14 people were killed, and how the FBI wanted to unlock the phone because there was communication with potentially other terrorists and maybe leads to avert another attack. So where are we going to go with this? And John McAfee is going to be very insightful tonight on exactly how secure we are and opening up that, quote, back door, and how far we should let we have the constitutional authority, we the people, to make a decision on this. Do we want to change? And if we do, what are other countries going to do? And is this a slippery slope? And how do you feel about it? That's our discussion tonight. When we come back, Mike Papantonio, America's Lawyer, joins us, Ring of Fire radio host and great friend, right here on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, the iSafe team bringing you this podcast. We're right back. Hey, folks, you've heard me talk about BioGreen Clean. I'm going to show you right now on my airplane just how tough this is. I want you to keep in mind, chemical-free, 100% plant-derived, biodegradable. It is the safest cleaner that you can get, and it's the most effective. Go to our website, wegoted.com, or go to biogreenclean.com. www.biogreenclean and order today.
We perpetuate a culture of crime all the way from Wall Street right down to the main street in our hometowns. It's worse than it has been since FDR took control of the problem and said we can't count on industry taking care of the American labor. They probably have already engaged into some type of criminal cover-up, and the law prohibits the government from even doing anything about it.
Catch America's Lawyer Mike Papantonio on YouTube at youtube.com/GoLeftTV.
Thanks for being with us here on this Monday edition of Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Also brought to you by PillPack. Check my website for more on that. I call him, as I said, the Maginot Line candidate, Donald Trump. I mean, this ain't going to be just a regular wall, folks. This is going to be a Maginot Line concrete fortification. It's going to be able to stop any invasion. That's what the French were thinking about against the Germans back in World War II. By the way, they built this in the 1930s. Mike Papantonio, Ring of Fire radio host with us. Pap, what do you think? Is he the Maginot Line candidate?
Well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good branding. Unfortunately, the American public's pretty gullible, and they see that this is a possibility. You know, we've talked about it before, Ed. Trump is a master of fear. He's figured out what every man out, the kind of the everyman fear. And he's focused on the things that are taking him out in droves to vote for Trump. When you really analyze what happened in South Carolina, when you look at some of those after-vote interviews, there was no surprise there. They don't want immigrants in the country. They want a wall around, Mountain Mexico, to have Mexico pay for that wall. They're terrified by Muslims. And so, I mean, we can sit here and we can act like this doesn't have legs. But it does, and it's those fears that, like it or not, Americans are fearful people. That's why we sell more guns here in America than any place in the world.
Mike, how did he win evangelicals in South Carolina?
Because evangelicals are misnamed. Evangelicals evangelicals have nothing to do with the Beatitudes or Christ or anything like that. Evangelicals that we're talking about here originate, as a matter of fact, right here in North Florida where I live, they had one of the biggest evangelical movements ever in the history of the country. It was called the Outpouring. And when you started understanding what that evangelical thing, that so-called evangelical thing was about, it wasn't anything about biblical. It was about what they call the Dominion Nation, and that is that we're going to have the world's about to end. That all we can do is go through the motions, and this guy Trump is talking like one of those people who's going through the motions. A, protect Israel. B, war's inevitable. C, the planet's going to melt anyway. There's nothing we can do about it. These are the things that attract these voters. It doesn't have anything to do with what the Pope might be talking about. The reason that Trump could attack the Pope and still attract evangelicals is the evangelicals hate the Catholic Church. They think that the Catholic Church stands for Satan.
So you think that Pope thing helped him out?
Oh, it absolutely did. The evangelicals love to mix it up with the Catholic Church.
Well, what happened to Cruz?
Well, Cruz is still, let me tell you, Cruz came out and says, I think his statement was, I believe that in 2016 that it's going to be a religious liberty election. Okay, that's his new phrase. You're going to hear him use this term, religious liberty election, again and again. He's getting there, believe me. He is working the evangelicals very, very well. But what he hasn't done, and the thing that Trump has done, is he hasn't scared the hell out of all of them yet, and they're going to end up moving towards Cruz more and more in his effort to build this thing that he calls the religious liberty election. Those are his words. That's his new brand for his campaign.
Well, is Rubio the dark horse here? I mean, what do you? This is a three-man race, no question about it. But Trump leaves South Carolina with all the delegates. It would be it would be a total political implode for him to miss the nomination right now, or a complete revolt. Yes, something big's going to have to happen for Trump not to win this. How about that?
I agree with it totally. Marco Rubio right now is winning all the fundraising from Wall Street. There's no question that he's way ahead there. They keep coming in for Rubio. Mitt Romney, as you talked about, is up front for Rubio. Here's one thing to think about. Jeb Bush had $100 million, Ed, and he blew it.
Unbelievable.
$100 million. And so if you say is Rubio going to win simply on the power of Wall Street's fundraising, the answer is no, because Rubio doesn't have the talking points or the delivery that Trump has. Here's something I want to say, and I don't say this lightly. What the corporate media has totally missed is when Rubio was in Florida, his brand is, and this is not Mike Papantonio making making this up. His brand was that he's stupid, and I don't mean that pejoratively. I don't mean they just didn't say it's not like this is just a stupid guy. His brand was he is stupid. In other words, where is he for a vote? He forgot about being there for the vote. What did he vote for? If you ask him what he voted for, he didn't even understand it. So what that hung around his neck is that he was stupid. Now, they dressed it up different words, but some columnists actually came right out and said this young man is stupid.
He kind of seems to engage the mouth before the mind. He just has that kind of delivery about him, like it's coming out of his mouth so fast he don't even know what the hell he's saying.
Well, that may be the excuse for it, but I got to tell you, Ed, when I use a word like that, I mean, sometimes we just flippantly say this guy. Yeah. This was his brand in Florida, yeah. and national media hasn't picked up on it.
All right, let's go to the Democratic side. Hillary wins by 0.2% in Iowa. She wins by 700 votes in Nevada. Yet, if you listen to the mainstream media, it's all Hillary from here on out. It's hers to win. It's and Bernie has no shot. Your thoughts?
Right. Yeah. The headline is Hillary is inevitable again.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, what we're seeing with Bernie is that if you look at what happened in Nevada, it's just a great example. Why would working class voters in Las Vegas, union voters, turn up for Hillary? Why would they do that? Is it that they don't know about NAFTA? Do they not know about CAFTA? Do they not know about this love affair that the Clintons have with Wall Street? That is those are all rhetorical questions.
I mean, they're saying that she worked the back halls there after midnight with these workers back in the cafeteria in the service area, and that word kind of got around. Seriously, she did the retail politics she didn't ever do before.
Yeah. Well, whatever her campaign, listen to the words that she came up with after. Now, listen carefully to what she says. She talks about Sanders and I agree on some things. Here's what she said. Sanders and I agree that we have to get control of Wall Street. We have to get control of the big pharmaceutical industry. Yeah. We have to get control of corporations who don't believe in America anymore. Basically, that was her speech. Now, that came directly from Bernie Sanders' mouth. But she's playing to the low information card, Ed, and she's doing a very good job of it. I mean, you just have to give her handlers have finally figured out that progressive language does work.
Yeah.
And so now she's out there, and these very low information voters, they have no idea. They haven't even analyzed what NAFTA did to them.
All right.
Bill Clinton, or they just haven't looked behind the story.
Mike, we as a society are going to have to make a decision on our privacy. We had a big discussion back in 2006 about the FISA court and the tapping phone lines and surveillance and all that crap that was going on. Now we've got this huge fight between Apple and the FBI. We got a cyber expert coming on tonight, the legend of McAfee antivirus. John McAfee's going to join us. He says we can all be had if we want to be. That's what I'm going to hear tonight, I believe. But from a legal standpoint, societal standpoint, I mean, I know what's right, but what's realistic about allowing law enforcement to protect us? I guess that's where we're at.
Well, I think, first of all, the Apple case, I think, is not the best case to ask that question with, because, frankly, they could get this information, and it could be done in a way where it's not opening Pandora's box to where we're spying on everybody's phone.
Okay.
That could be done, and that's not the discussion that's out there. When you talk to this analyst tonight, maybe he'll disagree with that, but from everything I'm seeing, there's always that balancing act. It's the right to privacy versus what we call broadly the police powers, which is the safety, health of individuals. That balancing power, that balancing test has always taken place. As a matter of fact, if you look at Supreme Court case after Supreme Court case from about the mid-1950s on, they're always struggling with this idea, when do we protect individual right to privacy over the broader interest of health, safety, and welfare? I don't think the Apple case is the one to make that decision with. I just don't think I don't think, because we know it can be done in a way that doesn't open Pandora's box. I think those folks in San Bernardino have a right, frankly, to understand more about what happened there. I think when the FBI talks about the fact there are broader concerns, they have a very legitimate argument. But unfortunately, this has been thrown into the all or nothing category, which is a shame, because it really should not be. This is not the test case for that.
Mike Papantonio, Ring of Fire radio host. Great to have you with us, buddy. Good to hear you again. We'll do it again. I know you've been busy. You got a lot going on. I think DuPont's probably got your email.
Well, anyway, thanks for having me on, and I appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Mike Papantonio, Ring of Fire radio host, America's Lawyer. Good to have you with us always, my friend. When we come back, Wendell Potter, he is a healthcare icon. He's a former health insurance executive, author of a number of books, and he is going to break down exactly what Trump's plan is for health care. I mean, Trump says that we're not going to let people die in the street. What does that mean? Stay with us. We're right back. It's time to continue our conversation about mechanical insulation. Mechanical insulation is for the piping systems in our nation's commercial and industrial facilities. Facility owners are burning up billions of dollars through the lack of mechanical insulation on these piping systems. Call the iSave team. Insulation saves America valuable energy, and this team of energy conservation specialists is shovel-ready to save you money. Visit iSaveTeam.org to have a specialist give your plant an energy audit. What's the heck of detail? You either qualify or you don't for insurance. It's the Trump campaign. But don't worry, they're going to make America great again. What's great is that he's actually out in front of all the other Republicans with little or no detail. It's not great. It's amazing. And as I referenced earlier, Trump on the tube on Sunday saying that we're not going to let people die in the street. Well, that's really good to know. He says that we're going to repeal everything about Obamacare. Well, I guess, as I said, with our family's condition, what's going to happen to the pre-existing condition? I wonder if Trump even knows what the pre-existing condition is, or if he's even ever heard that. But anyway, Trump said Sunday that he actually opposes Obamacare's individual mandate, following up his reversal last week of his apparent support for the law. He says that when he was talking to Anderson Cooper, they were kind of talking over one another. In other words, Trump engages with people without listening to them. Wendell Potter is a former insurance executive, author of Deadly Spin on Obamacare, What's in It for Me, regular contributor to healthinsurance.org. Mr. Potter, always great to have you with us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
What is Trump's plan? Do you know? Have you looked into it? He said he's not going to let anybody die in the street. I don't know if he's going to put that in paper or not. What do you think?
You won't find much if you go hunting. There's not much there. The only thing that really we can determine that he says he would do, other than not letting people die in the streets, is that he wants to remove the quote-unquote artificial barriers around the states, which is a way of saying that he is mouthing the talking points that he's heard some conservatives use before that they really make no sense. And, of course, as you noted, he says he's against the individual mandate. What this tells me is that he doesn't have any health care advisors. He doesn't know anything at all about health insurance or the health care system. He doesn't seem to realize, and nor do many Republican politicians realize, there is no federal law against insurance companies selling products across state lines. In fact, the Affordable Care Act sets up a mechanism for them to do that.
See, and now that right there, what you just said, Mr. Potter, just underscores how stupid the moderators are and the people that are asking the questions. They don't even know that, do they?
They don't. It is so maddening to see these debates, so-called debates, and there are no follow-up questions because the people who are doing the debates don't know enough themselves to answer smart follow-up questions. It's maddening.
It is. So the bottom line is, folks, if you're an independent voter, if you vote for the Democrats, Hillary or Sanders, they're the only two choices there. They are going to protect the pre-existing condition clause.
Yes.
If you go with a Republican, I guess, cut to the chase, we don't know, do we?
We don't know. We don't know. And Trump certainly is not alone in saying that he is opposed to the individual mandate. And that also belies ignorance, because you cannot protect the pre-existing condition provision of the Affordable Care Act without the individual mandate. They stand together. You take one out, the other falls down. So he just simply is just mouthing nonsense. You can't say that you are opposed to the individual mandate and won't let people die in the streets. He doesn't have a clue what he's talking about.
And I just had to get it from you. I knew that what it was, and I just find it utterly amazing that there's so many low information voters out there that are buying this. Oh, he's such a compassionate guy. We're not going to let people die in the street. Well, what is the plan? What is the plan? And if Obamacare is repealed, that means that people who have got a pre-existing condition are going to be dropped by the very people that run this healthcare system in this country, and that is the insurance companies.
It is. And this is just disingenuous. It's demagoguery, because I think all of the Republican candidates know that the law is not going to be repealed, Ed, even if a Republican's elected and the Republicans stay in control of Congress, because there are too many people who have coverage now that didn't have it before. We're not going to go back to those days, because you would have a situation in which the Republicans would be taking coverage away from millions and millions and millions of people, putting us back into the same situation than we were before.
Wendell Potter, always great to visit. I appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you for what you do.
You bet. Wendell Potter, former insurance executive, author of Deadly Spin on Obamacare, What's in It for Me, regular contributor to healthinsurance.org. Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSave team bring you this production. We are back tomorrow. See you on the tube tonight.